Welcome everyone to interview number 9 of OC Improvement Month. Today with Willie. Welcome.
Hello, hello, everyone.
Hello. Along with being a fairly skilled player yourself, I think you're also known for being a professional OSU discusser. Let-
Yes, OSU Discusser.
let's start with a very basic question. What is OSU?
OSU is a rhythm game where you click circles to the beat.
Okay, I might maybe I should give you a fair introduction like everyone else. Just for anyone who may not be familiar with you, could you just give a brief introduction to who you are in the community and what people might probably know you for?
All right. I've been a player for, oh man, how many years now? 9? I love the
2013?
game. Oh, yeah, 2013 October, so like almost exactly 9
Oh
now.
yeah,
Yeah, I got kind of good at the game. I peaked at like number 500. I was kind of good back then,
that's
but
pretty good.
started doing some content creation on the side and making videos about Osu history since it's not well documented, and that's something I care about a lot. And people know me much more for that than my gameplay now, but
I
that's
remember
really it.
Tokaku said once that like you want to know why OSU content creators aren't super good at the game or very competitive, it's because they're spending all their time making content. You feel like that's true?
I try and pace myself. I mean, if you look at my uploads right now, I'm on a schedule where I upload one video every week, but every fourth video is one that I actually have to edit, like a history video.
Ah,
So I can mainly just do like my gameplay stuff up there and as well. And some of those get views. Some people watch them. It depends on if you clickbait them right, you know?
right. What's the secret to YouTube?
Secret to YouTube is knowing what people want to watch. Because people, it doesn't matter how good your videos are, people aren't going to watch it unless it has a good title and thumbnail, right? You got to get them in the door, and then if your content's good, they'll keep coming back.
Right, the good old fashioned click through rate, and then the first 30 seconds of
hmm
retention.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people who have like great content. They know what they're doing. They have these videos they'll sit down and I'll watch all the time, but they just don't have a good title and they don't have a good thumbnail. And if you can't I don't want to say like pander because this is something I experienced. I used to not, use any weird titles or thumbnails myself, but then I realized like, oh well, it's what you have to do to get anybody to watch in the first place. But that's really the YouTube game.
Yeah, not only do you have to, but I feel like from the viewer side, it's like so normal that like to you, it feels like you're
Mhm.
making such an over the top excessive title. But for the viewers, when they see it on their feed, they're just like, oh, this is a video. It's catching
Yeah.
my eye. I'm going to click on it.
I mean, whenever you're clicked on a video already, you see what 10 recommendations that are all going to be that exact same thing.
Yeah.
So
I think people watching this video through YouTube are probably going to see many videos with essentially the same thumbnail from the same channel because they're all quite similar. But
Mhm.
um,
Not the best example, but
then what exactly were you referring to?
I was you gotta how do I say it? Instead of being overly like formal, like what I used to do was when I would upload my gameplay videos, I would put basically a score post. I'd be like Osu, artist name, song title, difficulty name, accuracy, mods,
Right.
like Yomiuri 99.21% FC, and
Okay.
that works if people are familiar with the map.
Right.
If you do Freedom Dive, right, people are going to click on it because they're like, oh, it's Freedom Dive. But for other maps, you're going to need to find a middle ground with the viewer, or something that'll interest them. Be like, I 300 BPM death stream, and it could be on a map that they've never heard of. You
Yeah,
know?
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, Midorigo Queen Bee. The random, yeah. I think Ryuke has been doing that and getting getting decent views on his score post. It's just kind of formatted that same way. But I think the thing is, for one, his thumbnails. Well, he's uploading some fairly recognizable maps like Godish, things like that. But
Mhm.
also, the thumbnail has the map background in it instead of just a random screenshot of the score. And I
Ah.
think that also helps. So someone asked, so there's a couple questions that came in specifically for you, but there's a couple questions about content and things like that that I want to touch on first. So there's one question that came in that said, how do I get good at streaming Osu? Not the skill set that's answered by Play More, but rather the tips and tricks of live streaming to Twitch or YouTube and recording VODs for YouTube content.
Hmm. The big thing about streaming Osu is most of the time for the viewers, they're not super engaged. Like I think you've seen, go into any top player stream and in the middle of the score, the chat's dead. But as soon as they set, a high PP play, everyone's like, "Bog, bog! Oh my god, I can't believe it!" Uh, if you're able to get people talking or at least have like a conversation with chat as you're playing, if that makes sense,
Oh,
that
really?
can at least make it better. Like that's something I love about like Momo's streams. It's very like informal. He's just relaxing while doing completion, and you'll be talking about whatever in the chat. And Momo's actually able to. I don't know how he does this. This blows my mind. He's able to like glance over at chat and read it while he's playing so well. That's something I've never figured out how to do. But he'll
Oh,
like respond to your messages in the middle of like a map where he's actually playing and like focusing. It's crazy.
I remember. So I think that has to do with how close the chat is to your game window. But
Hmm.
I remember, so Will Stetson, there was a while where he played in windowed mode and then he had his chat on the same monitor right next to his game. So he played with like a square resolution, so it was even easier. And then he just
Oh
had his
wow.
chat popped out like right to the right of his gameplay. So
Square resolution.
yeah, I'm pretty sure.
It's
But
very interesting. But
yeah,
to answer the question, I mean, uh, I used to hear back in the olden days, oh, to get viewers on Twitch, you either have to be really good at the game or really entertaining. And I think, I mean, talking with chat is the entertainment, right? If you're able to engage with somebody and just have a conversation, maybe the gameplay is just secondary, but that's something that can get you pretty far.
yeah. I mean, I think that statement still holds true.
Yeah.
I think there's a couple of rules of thumb, if I had to give my 2 cents, that I started using, especially when I was like uploading to YouTube super, super often. Is so I would clip. So at first, when I was kind of pushing to just make a bunch of content on YouTube, I just didn't care about editing at all. I basically, there was a period where I like didn't believe in editing, and that was after I had made some like very, very heavily edited videos. But at that time, I was like, nope, no editing, just clip straight from the Twitch VOD through the Twitch highlighter in your dashboard and just dump it straight onto YouTube. Put a cool title and thumbnail that's relevant to the video and just upload it. And the rule of thumb I started kind of working with is like if there was a moment in the stream that made the chat move faster than usual, you can usually use that moment as a clip to upload to YouTube.
Mm,
That was
that's
something
interesting.
because it helps like it because it's not only what you think was entertaining or cool, but also like the things that people actually reacted to. Like if you did something and then there was like 20 LOLs like in a very short amount of time, then that's
Yeah.
probably something that is worth uploading to YouTube and more people would find entertainment out of.
That's fair. That's fair. And that's also like you're not going out of your way to make the content. The content just happens, and then you'll be like, "Oh wow, that was a good moment. Let me upload that." Although some people do, they'll make an event. I tried to FC 10 Osu maps in a row. You know what I
Right,
mean?
right.
Make
Yeah,
a video out of that. But I think it's really nice when the content just comes naturally. Because some of my videos are just like stream highlights that I edit down, where I was just gonna grind for something one day, and then this happened, and then oh,
right.
so
I know, I think it's Ludwig who has mentioned this before, but it's like your live stream, it's so helpful if you actually use your live stream as the recording for making a YouTube video. Like you structure your stream instead of just being like, yeah, I'm going to play some random OSU maps or I'm going to play like whatever game, right? Instead of that, it's like you kind of structure the stream where it has a start, middle, and an end, and you sort of like start it with an introduction as if you're doing the intro for a YouTube video, and then same with the ending where you kind of wrap it up and do the outro as if you were talking to the YouTube video.
Mm.
But that's and then you have all this footage of that exact video that you're trying to make, and you could even do multiple videos in one stream. But I think that strategy, it's hard to say exactly how it would apply for Osu. Actually, no, because I think Koi Fishu does a pretty good job with that for Osu.
Yeah.
Like the Big Black 10-hour video is, I think, a pretty popular example where that was an entire live stream and he did it all on stream. And it even helps because if if it was done in your stream, then in the YouTube video, it makes it a lot more reasonable for you to shout out your stream during that video. Like, hey, by the way, these viewers that were watching live, that was on my Twitch channel, and you can go check it out where I stream every single day or something like that. So,
Right, right.
so similarly to content creation, and I think hopefully I suspect this is somewhat relevant to you as well, but someone asked, how do you manage OSU in your time as a college student along with being a content creator? Also, are there any techniques to keep your own skill sets fresh without being degraded when you're busy doing other things? I'm on my first year of college and I can't seem to get rid of habits like not going to bed early and not working with the schedule. I also know that breaks are actually helpful, but I'm taking too many breaks and can't seem to improve. Instead, I'm actually degrading. So, any thoughts on basically time management along with content creation and college slash school or work or whatever it is you might be doing, along with maintaining your actual OSU skill?
I found like a while ago that I personally was overplaying. I was playing way more than I really should have because I thought I needed to. I always felt like, oh, if I don't play, at least X amount of hours per day or per week, then I'm gonna get rusty. I'm gonna lose my skill or whatever. But I when I got a bit more constrained for time, once I had classes going on and things, and I had those days where I could not play at all physically. I I think it really came to me that motivation might be the strongest factor there. Like when my sessions, when I have them, I'm very motivated, I'm very focused, and that's what I want to do. And even if I'm only playing for, 1 hour, 2 hours, or whatever per week, that's still enough for me to make by. So I think focus on the other stuff, of course. Business school is definitely way more important than OSU, but like in your free time, if you really are, motivated, don't play when you don't want to play. If you're like really tired out, if you really, don't have the energy, or you're like, I just don't want to do it today. I don't want to grind this. I don't want to do that. Don't do it when you when you don't want to.
Yeah,
Apart from that, I mean, I don't know. I'm a pretty good student. I get my stuff done, so
that's good.
I always make sure that I get stuff done, as soon as I can, and then I'll have that much free time to play the game or do whatever I want.
You,
I've managed so far. Maybe it's a balance that I don't know how I've struck that, but I've made it this far.
well, it's somewhat, I mean, from what you mentioned earlier, so you mentioned that right now you're on a schedule with your YouTube videos where you kind of upload
Mhm.
once a week, and every fourth video is a more heavily edited or, more effort put into it type of video. Do you have any, I guess, context as to how that specific schedule came to mind, or like came to be? And also just general lessons that you've learned about time management, especially between content creation and other things?
I think it all started because before I would just upload a video whenever I set a score, oh, I got a new top play, let me upload that immediately. Or whenever I had a history video, I'd be like, let me just throw that out now. I haven't, made anything in a while. But the YouTube algorithm back when I started doing that was everybody's, you need to have an upload schedule, you need to do it. And I just figured, oh, let me do it weekly. It just
Yeah.
works out that
Okay.
way. And it does lighten the load a lot more when I think I was doing at some point two history videos. Like it would go history video, then gameplay, then history, then gameplay. And I was
Ah,
just, I was overwhelmed. So I was like, okay, I need to just cut down the load, something like that. It's it gives me a lot of breathing room. to do some of the other things. The gameplay videos that I upload in between, whether it be, some stream highlights or a really good score set, that's really just me streaming all my play sessions. So you could call it a really efficient use of time, because every time I play Osu, pretty much I'm streaming. So then that's recorded, and if something happens, I can just use the Twitch highlight and then download that and then upload that as its own video. Or I went for this medal during this stream. Let me download that, cut that down, and then make it into a video. Something nice and easy, rather than getting a score and then being like, oh well, maybe I should record this way, or oh, let me make a compilation.
Right,
Does that
right.
make sense?
Yeah, I think doing it through a stream makes the video creation process a lot more seamless.
It does.
Do you feel
And
like you'll ever run out of Osu history?
I've already felt that way. It's the good thing. Maybe it is motivation that really just keeps bringing me forward, because I reach this point every couple months where I'm just like, there's nothing I can make a video about. I'm out of ideas. There's no ideas. And then I'll just find this topic that grabs me, that I become so interested in. I'm like, I need to tell the world about this. That's pretty much where most of my videos come from, is something that I get really engrossed in, and I'm like, I need to just tell everybody about this, even if it's something obscure, minor, like super tiny. Saturos, the rank number 0 player in the world. Who would necessarily care about that besides me? But it's something that I find very interesting. So I've been lucky enough to always find those teeny tiny little topics just from browsing the OSU website or going around or asking some people about stuff, and I'll be like, oh, that's something that very much I would like to make a video about, and then I don't really run out of content.
What started that initial motivation to get to make videos about these topics? Was it frustration that no one else was doing it, or was it just passion for those topics? Or what would you say really started your video creation story for making these?
I think, of course, passion. Passion plays a big part, but you mentioned frustration. The first Osu history video on my channel, if you go all the way back, was my Minute Legends series on Sayonara Bai. And that was a video I had made a year before I uploaded it, but I was like, do I really want to upload this? Is this a series I want to do? So I just kind of put on the back burner. I just kept it to myself for then. And there was some channel around the time I uploaded it that made a video. I think it might have been on Sayonara Bai, and it was like very misinformed, like not well, put together.
Um,
It seemed like they didn't understand what really made Sayonara Bai great, because it was a couple of years after he had, faded kind of into obscurity, or at least out of the public's eye. He was in military, and not a lot of people, especially the newer players, knew about him, and that made me angry. And I was like, come on, you can't just take this great player and then get everything wrong about them. So I said, no, I'm gonna upload this video and show them what a real, like, short, concise, nice little history video about a player can be. And I just kept doing it from there, because people really seemed to like it. And of course, that's branched out to not just videos on players. I'll talk about specific plays, sometimes uh, weird, like, bugs in the game's history, and it's just been whatever little pieces of Osu history I come across, because not a lot of it is well documented. There's people working on the Osu wiki right now to try and document these things, but a lot of Osu history, if the people who told me these stories a couple of years ago, if they're not in the community anymore, nobody would have heard of it.
do you have lessons you've learned about analytics, YouTube metrics, things like that, mindsets around not either like how to best interpret those without kind of letting them get to your head or anything related to that topic?
I try to not let anything get to my head, but it still does. So I I'm not the greatest example, because I'm not fully like a content brained. I'm always open to like, oh, let me use this title thumbnail. Let me try and maximize the views and try and do that. But I won't really go out of my way too much to try and make a perfect YouTube channel. I'll upload videos that flop just because I want to upload those videos.
Right.
I'm not too deep into the analytics, but the only thing I really look at is view count.
So
As long as you get more people watching, that's always the metric of growth.
I see. So it's but it does also seem like you still do upload videos even if you aren't like super confident, like, oh, this is my absolute best work. You still just sort of upload because you like the topic.
Yeah,
Someone
yeah.
someone asked, if I want to make history videos, how exactly do I research about players? I joined the game this year, so I haven't really experienced any of the history for myself.
I think a great way to kind of feel, that firsthand experience of witnessing a player's greatness is like it's rare, but live stream VODs, if they're on YouTube, if you can find it, or just plays from that player from whatever era you're looking for. And this is a little life hack. If you go to YouTube and you search for whatever you want, but then after your keywords you put before colon a year. So you'll be like before colon 2015. It'll only show you videos before that year, uploaded
Oh,
before that year. So that's what I've used a lot to find history videos from specific things. If I know, like, oh well, I only want Cookie Z plays from before this era. Let me see if I can find it. And you'll find some like low view videos too that wouldn't normally come up because they're overshadowed from other things in the algorithm. That, and one of the biggest resources is the forums. People back in my day, the Osu forums were actually pretty active, but nowadays they're still sitting there. There's still some people who use them, but they're a great archive of what people were talking about in the past and what people thought of certain players. And maybe you'll find, oh, here's some tournaments and here's some tournament results that might not be documented elsewhere, or might not even be a badge tournament, so you might not have known about it.
I feel like the forums, well, first of all, forums were definitely more relevant in the internet in general around Osu's creation, I guess 2007, 2010
Mhm.
ish, and then it kind of slowly dwindled. I think probably in favor of places like Reddit and even just Discord, to be honest, because I think forums were just the best place for people to discuss topics. So, yeah, I think, what's your favorite part about Osu history? Like, why Osu compared to anything else? Or like, what makes Osu's history so special compared to other things?
I think when you look at Osu history, especially from an outsider perspective, you think, oh, it's this game. You click on the circle, you hold on the slider. It's very simple mechanics. There's three objects effectively: the circle, the slider, and the spinner, right? But so much complexity can arise from just those three things in the different positions on the screen, and then you get these players who they have developed their own skill sets and all these different things just from the simple nature of those three things. That's really what blows me away. And then you look into it, and each of these players has their own improvement curve, their own rise, their own history. It's like a whole microcosm in this tiny little game that you wouldn't expect would have a lot behind it, a lot of lore.
It sounds like it's really just the rabbit hole, the iceberg.
Hmm.
Is there
Yeah.
is there a well-made Osu iceberg? I'm actually not sure.
Oh, I don't know. There was one, I think, made by, if I'm right, Galactic Light N.
Oh,
I think that one was pretty good.
wait, that's right. There was like a video of someone explaining it, I'm pretty sure.
Maybe, maybe.
So similarly, I want to ask about live streaming as well. What is your favorite part about live streaming?
Definitely chat interaction. I mean, I kind of touched on it before, but just being able to talk to people and bounce ideas off, and get that instant feedback from dozens of people on whatever you're saying.
Oh yeah, it was Launch that made the
Launch.
the explain video for the iceberg. I don't think Launch made the iceberg, but yes, let's touch I think a little more on motivation. Is there any other
Mhm.
thoughts you have for staying motivated, or not even just motivation, but just like what keeps you going when you sometimes don't like aren't fully like I don't know why I'm trying to ask this without using the word motivation, but yeah, what are some strategies for staying motivated?
Uh, Diversify in terms of I give myself lots of different goals. I'm never just focused on, you can think about raw improvement. You can be like, I want to play something harder and harder every single day. But each time that you're going for a specific score, being like, oh, I want to get this number of S ranks or SSs, you're not necessarily improving, right? But you're still giving yourself something that makes you want to continue playing. So I think some of those other things in the game beyond just, your ranking or improving in terms of skill, stuff like score farming, stuff like completion if you really want to go insane about it, or trying to get a number of S ranks, SS ranks, anything, beat map spotlights. They medal hunting, that's a great example. They give you another way to enjoy the game and another thing to try and shoot for if you get burnt out of something, because people get burnt out a lot of like the ranking, trying to farm pp. I think we've seen it a lot with number one players who they reach number one and then they really don't know what to do. They've kind of reached the top, there's not a lot of competition, so they sort of start playing less and less, and then they just stop playing altogether.
So I'm curious to pick your brain a bit about some history of
Hmm.
players. So let me ask if if someone asks the question, who's the greatest OSU player of all time, there's some pretty
Mm.
popular names that would come to mind.
Yes.
Could you name a few that I think people would give sort of like some pretty common answers to that question?
Some pretty common answers. I'll start with my answer, which is of course Cookie Z. Emrek is an up and coming one, which I think he will become the greatest of all time, but he needs more like longevity at the top and more tournament wins to back that up, right? Some people will say HVIC 225, which is another really big answer when you think of his era of dominance from like 2015, 2016. There was really no one who could reach his level at the top of the ranking. Some people answer Wubblefulf, which is another great one, just because he's been playing forever. Since 2008, he's still up here. He's still such a great player. He's won the World Cup. He keeps grinding to this day. I think those are some pretty solid answers.
What are some answers to that question that are sort of like within a certain facet of the game or just community in general? Like, what are some answers to that question that wouldn't come to mind at first? And could you sort of give justification for like people that were sort of the best at their specific facet of the game?
Hmm. Let me think about that, because there's definitely players who even throughout history might have been like more dominant than anyone else. If you think about Mornis mentioned in the live chat right now, Cyclone back in 2008, 2009, I guess more close to 2010, was completely dominant in the score rankings. Nobody could take his number one, and people said that he was like the god of the game. But of course, we think differently now. We look back and we're like, oh well, it wasn't all about a ranked score or something like that. So that's an answer that, I mean, you could even take that to the current day, be like Momo. Momo's so far ahead of anyone else in terms of ranked score, but that's someone we don't normally think about. Um, Within certain skill sets, you could even, you know, come down to, oh, who's the best speed player ever? Who's the best, precision player ever? And you could keep going from there. But
And
I think also greatness isn't just about like skill, right? It's part skill level, of course, but the accolades that you get, the records that you set at that level.
Who's the best OSU player at having fun?
At having fun, Wolf.
Any
He's
competitors?
maybe. I'm not so sure,
We
but
mentioned Momo earlier. I feel like
that's true.
Momo deserves a shout here.
He really does. He's still grinding. He's gonna complete the game soon, so watch out. That completion stream is coming up. But
Oh, do you know what the pacing is right now?
oh, I'm not sure, but he right now, just recently, like a week ago, he became the player with the most clears in the game.
Oh,
So he's definitely on pace to completing. I just don't know when. Hmm.
someone asked, or do you want to stay on this topic a little bit?
Uh, I'll chime back in if I think of anything, but let's keep going.
Okay. So someone asked to Willy, do I need to be good at OSU to make good OSU content on YouTube? Like every single thing I see in my recommended is just God mode clips and stuff like that. I'm also bad at talking into a microphone and I don't really want to do it when my parents are home, which is like 99% of the time. So I don't know if videos like history videos and that kind of stuff are an option either.
I don't think you just have to make history videos or anything. I don't think you have to be like a really good player. If you understand Osu well, like you understand what makes specific patterns hard or something like this, you could probably make some sort of content. I don't know exactly what. I can't really envision it, but there's definitely always something. I want to encourage anybody, just make videos. There's a lot of people who are like, oh, I would love to make this video, but I don't think it'll work out. I don't know if I really have what it takes to do this. But YouTube's just trial and error. I was making Osu videos for years before I started making history videos, and then everything's only gotten better and better. You only learn if you try in the first place, and who knows, you might actually have the winning formula that nobody's ever thought of for the Osu community. You might become the next popular YouTuber.
There's one format that comes to mind for me right now, which is probably like compiling clips from a certain event and sort of telling the story by like kind of summarizing a certain event. There's a difference between ripping other people's clips and just posting them blatantly, as opposed to kind of compiling many different clips, either from the OS World Cup that's coming soon. I think if you're going to follow along with the OS World Cup, it would be pretty cool to kind of compile clips from a certain round and maybe do like all the like moments for like a very specific map of like the qualifiers, or just kind of compiling like different players' thoughts on the tournament or whatever else might be relevant at the time. So yeah, even stuff like, I'm sure every now and then there's some pretty spicy drama that spreads around in the OC community. I think you could make videos compiling like many different players' opinions, because I think that's something that whenever there's drama, a lot of people want to see what all the most relevant people in the community are saying, just because that's how the internet works. But yeah, I think stuff like that where you don't really need that like either good gameplay or even commentary at all. You can, if you need to put text on the screen, you can put text, but that's, I think, one of those things where you can kind of compile stuff.
Yeah, you
like
could
that.
like let the story tell itself through clips, which is very interesting. Very interesting thing. I just want to add, I do think there's a lot of types of Osu content that nobody has ever made before, that nobody has thought of, or maybe somebody's experimented with it, but it hasn't caught on yet. It hasn't quite caught wind or found the audience that it needs. And a lot of people will just see what works and then they'll copy what works, and they'll make it in their own way. They'll make it in their own flavor. But I think there's a lot of ideas that haven't been explored. I mean, even you go back to Momo, he hasn't really been like making videos, on YouTube or anything beyond just uploading some good plays. There, you could have a whole series that's just completing Osu, and then you just stream yourself playing all these different maps. And then maybe there's some funny moments. Maybe there's this funny pattern that happens in a map. That's like a whole type of content that hasn't been made before. There was a video I saw the other day. Oh, I can't remember Do you know the person who does the OWC recaps?
Junihun?
Yeah, yeah. He did a video about he titled it really well. It was how Emmerich and Whitecat won Corsairs or something like that. And it was really, it wasn't just like a history video telling, oh, here's the story of that, but also like analysis of the picks, kind of, right? And like
Oh,
the strategy behind a tournament, which I haven't seen before. And I think that's a huge thing that people could go over. Kind of like, have you ever seen those YouTube channels that go over chess matches or like
yeah.
historic chess matches or even current ones going on? I think you could kind of look back at a tournament and be like, oh, they went with this pick because they had one of their speed players was sick, so they felt like banning this. Like run down the analysis of the match, and I don't think anyone's done that. So that's like a whole new avenue of Osu content that I didn't even think of before until I watched that video. I was like, oh, this could work. This could definitely happen.
That's a topic, or I guess style that I remember starting to do, because like it would basically start with like I'm watching another match on my stream, and it's like, well, let me just kind of discuss my own thoughts, kind of
Mm-hmm.
being a second party or third party commentator, and kind of giving my own analysis for the match and like why, like what these players might be thinking. But yeah, that's definitely the one thing is like the amount of time it takes to compile those, because like you don't want
Mm-hmm.
to just make it like the 50-minute video of like the entire match. So like breaking it down, like the way that Junihun does it is so respectable, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yeah, it's nice, bite sized. It's not like the
yeah,
the full tournament. And I think there's a big thing that comes from not just it being like a reaction to the match or like your initial thoughts, but being like a post mortem, being able
right.
to analyze like here's how they did this and here's how it played out.
Those seem like videos where you could, you know, there's those channels that do like puzzle analysis or like post game analysis where there's like no loud audio and there's just like hundreds of them and you can use them to fall asleep. That's one of those things I think if someone makes those without like actually having game audio or at least making sure it's not very loud, I feel
Mm.
like it's one of those things. I don't know, just something that came to mind.
Yeah, there's lots of different types of Osu content, and it's way more than just this. I think recently some like metal hunting content has started getting picked up by people trying to go for certain metals. I've seen that recommended to me. So, hopefully people are finding their own little niches now to start making things. It's not just Osu history, or gameplay. I think there's a lot more to this game than people realize. Imagine even just like I know that there's some like mapping content, like people make oh, I speed mapped this song. I think more of that would be awesome, but also are there any like storyboard content creators? I haven't seen anybody make a storyboard on YouTube. That could be really cool, and that could appeal,
Oh,
I think, even to like a general audience who doesn't know anything about the game because they look at it and they'd be like, "Wow, they made these cool visuals." That's another thing.
yeah, I think the short answer is that there's definitely styles of content that don't quite involve either commentary or gameplay. So,
Hmm.
yeah, I think creativity is always important when it comes to YouTube. And
That's
yep,
that's the number one lesson. Don't just try and copy something else, even if that is like the easiest formula will work. You can discover your own brand new type of content, and you could be the best at it.
let's switch gears a little bit. Still somewhat related to tournaments, but this is a question that came in about OSU matchmaking. Someone
Hmm.
said, "Hello, Mr. Willie. You've recently and also in the past spoken passionately about the third-party OSU ranked slash matchmaking system. You mentioned wanting to bring in more coders who are well versed in C plus to help make changes to OSU matchmaking to make it easier to use. What changes are you looking to make to OSU matchmaking in order to make it more user friendly? Thank you, Willie. Sincerely, the Fear Man."
Wow, the real fear man right there. Have you ever seen his one map?
Oh no, I
It's
have not.
terrifying.
Oh
Do not,
dear.
fellows, do not research Gamma Gun Scary Edition. It's a terrifying map. If you dare play it. Uh, yeah, Osu matchmaking. For those who don't know, I'm sure a lot of people have played it. I know you've played it, right? It's an automated matchmaking bot where it'll play like a mini tournament match. It'll just play a little lobby, best of 7 on a random map pool, and you can gain rating, lose rating, and it'll pair you against people based on your rating. It's simple matchmaking idea that we threw together in a Discord server, and we've wanted to expand it ever since, but we've kind of lost people who are passionate for it. Some people move on from the game. Some people, who are developing it are just really busy now, and they don't really aren't able to work on it anymore. So if we could get some people with coding experience, I know Pepe's been kind of open to at least more open in the past to including things in laser. So that's what I was talking about before is if we get some people who could help us implement these things into laser, there's potential for Osu matchmaking actually being in game. I don't know how official that is or how official the ratings would be, but I mean, Pepe seems open to it. Apart from that, we've wanted to fix up Osu matchmaking because currently it's done, as I said, through a Discord server, and you pretty much have to register in the Discord server and you have to be in there, which is a huge, turn off for a lot of people. They might be at server limits. They might not, want to join a random server. So our vision was always for the website that we have. You just click a button and you'll be queued for a match, and then it'll alert you whenever. But we just haven't had enough people on development to help us with that. So this is a call to anybody out there who knows anything about writing some front end stuff for the website, or if you like C# and you want to help us put stuff in laser. Hey, come message me.
Oh, I just realized the person asking said C+, which I think is not actually a language.
Yeah, that's
you meant C#, I think.
Yeah.
I just kind of read it and I did not realize. Okay, but yeah, C#. I think that's one of those things you would really want to make a Twitter post and cross post to Reddit, even make a YouTube community post. Just really get recruitment through Google Doc and go through people, have them send a resume. I think that, although I wonder how much of that effort would be quote unquote wasted compared to just starting development to get it into laser. But I think third party is always something that you can at least test formats and see what really sticks with the community. So,
yeah, we already have a lot of data points. We're always trying to figure out ways to improve. It's just it's tough when not a lot of people are playing, because I don't know if you know the death spiral that Osu matchmaking has been in.
Oh, right.
Where when we first release, we have a lot of people playing, and then as the initial spark dies down, queue times go up. So then people are like, oh, I don't want to wait in the queue for that long. So they'll leave the queue, and then there's less people in the queue. So the times go up even more. And then we're left until there's only, 2 people queuing, which is the current state of affairs. It's tough, and that's just how it's going to be unless we have an easier method for these things, which is why I mentioned the website. If we just had a button where people would click and join the queue and then not have to think about it, not have to have Discord or anything else pre-prepared to do this, or even, of course, implemented in-game in laser. That would be a huge motivating factor to get people to play.
I think one big factor that needs to be considered is having top players have easy access to playing matches. I think the biggest struggle is that, at least for me, as one of the higher seeded players in Osu matchmaking, when I wanted to find a match, there were so few players that were around my MMR in the first place, to where I had to reach out to people that were already online and just kind of ask them if they wanted to play. And it's just kind of random, I guess. So, but I think the people that are going to be able to advertise the most are the live streamers and the top players that have an audience.
Right, and I think that is partially, due to the MMR, but also because there's such a small queue. I mean, if you think about it, you might find people around your MMR if there were more people in the queue. It's just if that doesn't happen to be the case, then you're going to be waiting for a really long time. I have a lot of really interesting stuff about matchmaking that we figured out. All the math behind it. It's all in my brain. I know it by heart.
Could you break down a little bit of it for us?
Yeah, so oh man, which part do I start with? I think I'll just start with the queue. It's really simple. So how we match make is a really easy to understand algorithm. What we do is we take a person in the queue, and it'll check to see, hey, is anybody in the queue, like within their rating a certain amount, let's say like 50 points above or below. And if not, the longer that they wait in the queue, that range will expand. So it'll be like, okay, after a minute, maybe anybody 60 points above or below in the queue, and it'll check. And then, after 2 minutes, 80 points above or below, and it'll just keep going until a certain range where it just determines like it really wouldn't be a fair match, but it'll try and get you a match, right? Just if there really is nobody, or if it really cannot find after I think 10 or 15 minutes, something like that. So that's what the actual matchmaking is, and it would be a lot better. I mean, of course, if there were more people.
Right.
That's the ideal world. Is you want people to find matches, and you want people to find fair matches too. You don't want the one match that person plays. They wait 10 minutes just to be paired against someone who's 1,000 MMR above them. That's not really an ideal match, but it's a compromise we have to make just so people can find a match in the current circumstance.
Would you consider doing seasons or other forms of incentives, like a battle pass or badges for each season, things like that? Battle pass would be crazy. Osu battle pass.
We've planned some of this out. We tried to figure out how to do some of this, but there already wasn't a lot of people playing, so then it's tough to get that. That would bring people back, as people want to play. But I think the goal right now is just try and get Osu matchmaking, like I said, the website or some sort of laser integration later on, and then worry about making it more seasonal. I would love to see seasons, because that's something that we really don't see in this game at all. There's not like PP seasons, although that might be interesting too. I don't know.
I think the reason why we don't have those is just for the archival, like, kind of principle of Osu in general.
And I do agree with that too. I think if they ever were to add like a rating to people's profile, I would want an overall rating as well as like a seasonal rating. If you do that, I think an overall rating would be really useful, like all time, every match you've ever played. That would be cool.
Well, I know that Osu, I think PPV1 had rank decay or PP decay, where can you describe how that system worked?
PPV1, well, actually, the interesting thing is we actually don't know exactly how it worked. We just know like the general concepts. It was a ranking system where if you placed higher on a map, you would gain more PP.
So it was based on your leaderboard placement, basically.
Yeah. So if you got number 1 on the map, you would get the most PP out of that map. And the more people that played the map, it would be like, oh, there's 5,000 people or 5,000 people competing on this leaderboard compared to 15,000 on this leaderboard. So the one with 15,000 people, in theory, competing to try and get top 50 on the map would give more PP because there's more competition. But that has its own problem. And beyond that, so it was a system which very much rewarded getting high ranking positions on a lot of different maps, and it would make people continually play, keep actively playing, because the amount of PP that you got for your performances would start decreasing. It would start getting smaller and smaller until about a year after you set the play, it would give no PP anymore.
So that would the score, basically, like the first day you set it, it might be worth 200, but then over time, like the older the score is, the more it decreases.
Mm-hmm. So like after a month, it might give 195, and then after 2 months, it might give 108, and then it would slowly decrease until it just finally hit 0.
I remember that system really incentivized people who stayed in like really low star ratings and just used every single mod.
And that's one of the consequences, is people could get really high ranking by placing highly on low star maps, which will always have more people playing them, right? Because there's new people to the game who will just use them as a tutorial. Or I don't know if you remember this, right around PPV1 was when Attack on Titan came out. So if you played the Attack on Titan opening and you got top 50, you would gain like a lot of PP because it thought, oh, there's 100,000 people competing on this map to be, on the leaderboard. So if you got top 50 on that, it would think, just because it has more players playing it, more players, that it's a highly contested, very hard to do map. But people would farm that.
I remember in 2017 there was a draft design for Osu clans, which is basically like an in client or like
remember.
like like built-in official like teams basically.
Not just that. I do want to add on to this and say in 2015, I don't remember if it was Peppy or someone else, they said that we are getting Osu clans by the end of the year. So I don't know how that's coming along, but
Yeah, I think the infrastructure is definitely getting closer to being done. Although I think just that alone does, I guess, point to the fact that the development team is definitely interested in that. I think I've heard that Pepe has said that tournament/competitive play is definitely the future of Osu moving forward. So that's definitely something that I think, I think if Osu spotlights can get badges for placement and then like only the top rankings keep the badge, I think Osu matchmaking should be able to do the same thing.
yeah, they're a lot more official. I mean, they're put on by a team of people. But hey,
Well,
let's believe.
that
I think.
team is not any more official than matchmaking, trust me.
I mean, I guess so. I think if we play our cards right, and this is why I ask for hey people who can help me develop this, who can help us develop this. Me and Anemic Witch are the two like Osu matchmaking people developing. But if we have a good what's the word, like prototype or example to show them like, hey, we've done all this work, we already have the infrastructure set up for Osu matchmaking, and then we present it to someone in Osu who might be like, hey, maybe we should have this in laser or something like that, then that makes it much easier to get it in, rather than just being like, we have this, it doesn't quite work, we don't know, you would probably have to do some work to help us implement this, which is why we want people who know laser, or at least can help us figure out how to implement it in laser.
I think so. Osu Improvement Month has tried incorporating Osu matchmaking into it as a way to incentivize people to play.
Mhm.
And through that experience, I've definitely come across more like roadblocks when it comes to like potential reasons why Osu matchmaking isn't growing. I think the biggest thing that comes to mind is that the new user experience, first time user experience, is just so inconvenient to
Oh yeah,
set up. And I think that's probably the biggest thing that prevents people from entering the queue system or like play cycle in general.
and that's kind of what I was trying to get at before, is like you have to join a Discord and then verify, like, okay,
Yep.
is my account verified now, like have I entered the code, does it work? Sometimes the code just doesn't go through, sometimes this, that, or okay, how do I enter the queue? I have to enter a command. Is the command supposed to be entered in Discord, or is it supposed to be on Osu? Like what I do, I think if we just had the website, imagine the website, you've seen the website,
Right.
it has right now just a green play button on it. Imagine there's a button right there that says queue, and all you have to do is click that button, and you're
Well,
now queued.
the real thing is you shouldn't even need to go to the website. You just go.
Yeah.
I think the reason why, and I would compare the matchmaking bot, which the OC username for it is called MaidBot, MAID, and comparing that bot to, let's say, Tillerino, the main difference is that for Tillerino, you can just message it and it'll grab your data and all that stuff. I'm actually curious, what's the reason why you need to verify with the bot and that sort of thing in the first place?
It might be due to how old the bot is.
Oh,
It might have been before Osu had like their OAuth 2 implementation, where you ever done that, where you log in
oh,
on some third party website,
yeah,
and
yeah,
it's
yeah.
just like a one click thing. Like we have our own verification system, which needs to be updated. Everything needs to be updated, but it's it's a lot of just old stuff. I mean, we have a lot of stuff which is good. We know how to automate matches. We know how to do that. The things that are the issues with matchmaking right now are, of course, the user experience, trying to register for it in queue. We don't have a lot of people who can make pools or find pools for us. That's pretty much been dead for a while. So hey, if there's anybody who likes submitting pools or helping pool maps, that's another thing. People, there's some pools that are debatable if they should even be in matchmaking, because some of them are kind of gimmicky, kind of weird.
I'm still
But
pretty adamant about my pooling system that I described to you way back when,
mhm.
which was basically that you have actually I'd have to pull up this image. So basically you have so you have a map pool like template. It's like Nomad 1 through 6 and then hidden 1 through 3,
Yeah.
etc. And then you have 5 different versions of each slot per difficulty range. And every day or every couple days, a new version of that, a new version of that slot would be added, and the oldest version of that slot. So, like Nomad 1, for example, you have 5 different versions of it, and then every, let's say, 2 weeks, there would be a new Nomad 1, and then the oldest Nomad 1 would get removed, and the newest ones have a higher percent chance of being shown or being picked for that match. So, and I think that structure is a lot more fluid or like a lot more flexible. And also at this point, there's enough featured artist maps to where we could try making it like featured artist maps only and see how that works. You know what, Willie? I'm putting my foot down. After this interview ends, we're not leaving this call until you make an announcement for recruiting people for OSU matchmaking. I'm sick and tired of this.
This is true.
I'm tired of matchmaking being the greatest untapped potential of the history of OSU. So,
and I'm tired of it too. I want it to be like some sort of official thing, because I love the idea of ratings in this game, and I think every time I see someone try to do something similar, I get that fire in me deep down inside. I'm like, you know what? I need to make this real again. Because recently it was you saw the BTMC video on Osu now has ranked Elo. I watched that. I was like, huh, what is this? Is this going to be a system kind of like matchmaking that's official? And it's Osu ranked lobbies, which I have my own qualms with, because I'm like a big, like, I mean, I do all the math for ratings and stuff, so I'm like a big nerd on like ratings. I'm like, that's not how you should be doing ratings. You shouldn't be doing it per map. Osu is technically not a zero sum game when it's only one map. Like, I look at that. It's still a good idea, and I think it shows that the idea of ratings is still something that people want in the game, because I see those rank lobbies all the time. They're always up there, so it gives me motivation.
All right. Well, now I know what we're doing in around half an hour from now.
I wanna do it too. And I, just to answer that before, because we talked about map pools. That's what I'm saying. We just don't have anybody to even like start reworking map pools, because everyone's inactive. Everyone's like gone from the project, so we can't even begin to rework that without people who are motivated.
All right.
So if you're motivated watching this, come message me.
We're definitely going to fix that. But before that happens, let's, I think, touch a bit on a couple more topics, especially those that were sent in. So I'm actually curious your experience with just general OSU improvement and stuff. I think let's actually start very broad. Do you have any like major let me think. There's a couple questions. Okay, so actually let's start with, what do you think are the biggest mistakes you see people make when it comes to improvement in this game?
Biggest mistakes. Maybe it sounds weird, but caring too much. I that's a huge thing with your mental and how you're thinking about the game. And if you're really obsessed with seeing a result, you're gonna start psyching yourself out, right? Your brain is gonna keep you from doing something if you really, you know, are hammering that home, and then you think, oh man, maybe I won't be able to do that. Don't let your doubts get in the way, but also don't like it's kind of metagame stuff. Other big things are people really care about peripherals. I feel like I see that a lot. People care. Oh, I need the keyboard. I need a tablet. Which I sit there and I'm like, no, you don't. You really don't need a tablet. You can get good at this game using a touchscreen if you really want to. But I think that's it. Improvement is something everybody experiences at their own pace in their own way. So
What are the skill sets that took you the longest to learn, and what are some of the lessons that you learned throughout that process of getting better?
probably the things I'm still bad at, speed and aim. But although I'm getting better, I'm still working on improving. I'm always working on improving. But I was very stubborn. I'll tell you the story of me as a player. It's kind of a miracle that I got to any slightly good rank in the first place because I had terrible mental when I was originally playing the game, and I would only play maps that I felt comfy on. I wouldn't, go above the BPM. For the longest time, I thought I couldn't stream 200 BPM. I was a player in it. I figured out how to stream, but like once it started getting to 200 BPM, I was like, oh, this is so fast. I can't really keep up. So I would just avoid playing any maps that were 200 BPM, which is kind of the issue. Like you're never gonna learn how to stream 200 BPM or faster if you never play maps that are that fast. And then one day, I I uh, I accidentally played a map that was 200 BPM without looking at the BPM, and I FC'd it, and I was like, oh, I wonder how fast that was. That felt kind of good. I saw it was 200. I was like, oh, I guess I can stream 200 now. And then like instantly, the mental roadblock just went away, and then I, of course, did the same thing for 210 BPM because naturally. But I I held myself back for so long. I think the biggest thing when it comes to improving at the things that you're not the greatest at is to actually try. It sounds like obvious advice. It sounds like, well, of course, if you're slow, then play stuff that's faster. But like actually doing that can help you out so much. Instead of for a while I would do the same thing, with like AR 10.3. Like I couldn't read stuff that fast. I can't read AR 10. It's so fast. And I would play one map that was, AR 10, and then I would get a B rank on it. I'd be like, oh, I'm doing so bad. I can't do this. And then I wouldn't play anything. And then I would come back a month later and be like, oh, I wonder if I'm any better without practicing AR 10 at all. And of course I would get a B again, and it would always get to this point where it'd boil over for me, and I would just be like, I am so tired of not being able to do this. I'm just going to sit down and play AR10 until I figure out how to read it. And I do it for a couple weeks, and then I'm fine. I've learned how to read AR10.
I'm actually
And
I'm glad you pointed out that like sort of principle, I guess, because that is, I think, one of the biggest things, especially people who ask questions about improvement, because it's like, I think what that really stems from, if I had to guess, is that people, it sucks to suck at something.
yeah.
And when, like, obviously the most comfortable thing to do, which you said you kind of went through the same thing, is to just like not play that stuff that you're bad at. And it's like, you want to be able to play it, but you don't want to suck at it. So I think that's where that cycle of seeking advice comes from, which is like, how can I get good at this without feeling like I suck at it, like at all? Which I think is actually exactly the problem where, and this is kind of what you're mentioning as well, which is like the earlier you can get over this feeling that sucking at something is wrong. Obviously it feels bad. I don't think anyone really enjoys being bad at something compared to being good at it. But I think the sooner you can get past the feeling that like you're not supposed to be bad at something and just kind of getting over it, and it's like, yeah, you suck because you haven't given the time to do it, and the more time you put into it, like, it's like, no wonder you suck at something that you have not spent any time practicing, right? So
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think.
And
Yeah,
alternatively, I see a lot of people care about their playtime in the game. They'll look at their hours and be like, "Oh, well, I put in 300, 400 hours in this game, and my friend who only has 200 hours is better than me. Like, why am I not improving as fast?" But it's a hard realization to come to, but not every time that you're playing this game are you improving? You can do things that are contrary to improvement. Like I said earlier, the stuff where, oh, if you're score farming, if you're just going for a specific score, right? If there's a map that you can FC and you're like, oh, I want to improve that act. Like you could be practicing a bit of finger control, but beyond that, if it's a map that you already know you can FC, you're not pushing your limits, you're not really, improving as much as you could be in theory. So it kind of hurts to be like, oh, well, I'm wasting my time. But is it really wasted time if you're enjoying yourself?
yeah. At the end of the day, I know a lot of other people throughout these interviews have been saying that you should find whatever is most fun for you, and I think that's kind of tying into what you're saying, where if you're playing the game in a way that's fun for you, then you're just going to keep playing regardless of if you feel like you're improving. And sort of paradoxically, that's actually what does lead to the most improvement for a lot of people.
Mhm. Letting go of some of the stuff, like all the stats, all the numbers, really. Not caring about hours, not caring about your rank or PP, might be one of the best things for improvement or the worst things, right? Because then if you don't have anything to motivate you anymore, if you don't care, what rank you are, then you might just not even try to improve. But if you are motivated, not being held back by always constantly thinking, "Oh, am I gaining PP for this? Oh, what if my rank goes bad? Why are my hours going up?"
Right.
It's kind of a double-edged sword, but if you can use it right, then you can be at least ahead of the people who are limited by only ever thinking about rank, PP, hours in the game.
Yeah, I think getting past those barriers already puts you ahead of the vast majority of players. I want to ask you, as a professional profile reviewer, I guess this was more in the recent past when you were going for partner on Twitch,
Of course.
but as someone who has looked at many OSU profiles and given them your honest opinions, as well as just kind of having many different people come to you and ask you to look at their profile, see how you think they're doing, see if their scores are good for their rank, see if their rank is good for their playtime. What would you say your thoughts are on profile reviews and the fact that people dig them up so much?
I think it's cool. I sometimes I don't know if people are really like going there for the advice or like, oh, maybe you should play this or that or whatever. I think it's really just to see your profile on the screen, see yourself on the screen of this stream that has 100 viewers or whatever. But there's been a lot of people who I look at their profile and I just give some encouraging words. I'll never say anyone's profile is bad because there's no such thing as bad profile. There's only people who, you know, haven't developed yet and the people that have,
I
right?
mean, I don't know. Have you seen my profile?
No, but I've given a lot of people words of encouragement and been like, oh, you're right here. Maybe you should try some of this stuff. If you did that, you would become, a really good player. You would be able to not just, aim, but also tap all these notes accurately. And they come back a month later or something like that, and they're like, I'm already seeing improvement. Thank you for guiding me a little bit. So it feels kind of good having done that. As a viewer, I think if you go into a profile review, either just with the expectation of maybe having fun. Maybe they look at one of your funny reading plays and they're like, "What? How did I do that?" Or really just coming in for advice and helping out. It can be a good time.
How much value is there in getting personalized advice from a top player? I think a lot of people say that advice has no value in comparison to just actually practicing and playing the game.
Mhm. Well, I think the advice that you might get from a top player can circumvent having to learn those lessons on your own, which I would like to see as a good thing, right? Because, like I said, I'm somebody who struggled forever with a lot of different skill sets, right? And I would sit here and I would bash my head against the wall, sitting here like, why am I not improving? Why can't I do this? I don't get it. And if somebody had just been there and been like, like actually just play these maps, you know? Given me that sort of advice, I might not have wasted, or at least quote unquote wasted, like 1,000 or 2,000 hours, right? So I like to see it as beneficial, and I know a lot of people will be like, "Well, it's advice that you could figure out on your own." But there's some people who get stuck. There's some people who have trouble figuring out these things on their own, or they feel like they've tried everything. And maybe if you're, someone who could give them a different perspective or give them an idea, that they might not have come up with yet, that'll encourage them more rather than having to waste away continually missing on the AR-10 pattern because they think they can't read it.
I know there has definitely been players in the past. I've actually seen quite a few players, top players at that, who say that they wanted to, or they like wanted to make guides on improving different skills or just like their thoughts on different skills. I've even seen some people say that they made scripts for some videos about those topics and then they just kind of never actually get around to making those videos. Do you feel like more top players need to make improvement content sort of about their thoughts with the game, or do you feel like it's not really necessary?
I think they can. I mean, I don't think anything. I don't. Oh man, that's tough because like if it's not their prerogative, if they don't really feel like they need to, then not gonna force them to. But if they really do want to, I'd like to see that come to fruition because even if it's different advice, even if it's conflicting advice from what you might see another top player say, it's useful to get your thoughts out there at least and be like, hey, there is an alternative way of thinking or doing this, or this is how I did it, and you can figure it out on your own. Even if you're just saying that, maybe helping the people realize any bit of advice is still advice.
Then do you have advice, not necessarily about gameplay, but kind of talking a bit about comparing yourself to other players? Any advice for people who seem to constantly find themselves comparing themselves either to top players or even just players around their rank, comparing different profile stats and things like that? Any advice for mindset and ways to, I mean, first of all, do you even think that that's a bad thing? I know a lot of people do feel like it's bad, but you can sort of give your 2 cents on that.
It can be bad, but it can also be a huge benefit. I mean, one of the things that I did when I started growing as a player was look at my friends' scores, be like, oh, can I beat them? And that would give me a goal, and that would give me, some incentive for the things that I played. Uh, and that guided me for a while, but then it would become, when my friends did better than me, oh, why can't I do this? Why can't I play, the farm map that everyone else on my friends list can play? Why am I so far behind everyone else? So it's good, if it motivates you, if it will keep you going, but then you got to deal with the downsides of it, reducing from your attitude to the game, you not being as motivated and in fact probably pushing you away. Uh, I would say it's probably better not to compare and just to set your own goals based on how you're doing and things like that. But I'm someone who's had bad experiences in the past being compared to other players and comparing myself. So I don't know if that shapes what I think.
So what I'm hearing is that you sort of have experienced comparing yourself to other players.
Yeah,
Are
yeah.
there
Like I mean, like I said, the friends that I've had in this game for a while, whenever they would do better, whenever they would surpass me in rank, I'd be like, "What am I doing wrong?" What I'm doing. But just because someone else is doing good doesn't mean you're doing bad, and that's one of the things that I eventually came to realize.
Are there any strategies or just kind of lessons you've learned about like how to get yourself to basically just not care as much? I think a lot of people are kind of interested in breaking that cycle of comparing yourself to others.
I'm not sure. I was just playing one day and I had this realization, and it was I can pinpoint exactly when it was. It was the summer of 2020 when I was just playing one day, and I just realized like nothing really matters in this game. You don't really have to compare yourself to other people. It doesn't matter if you're doing bad in a single play. And I would say just thinking it through and just being like, okay, what is bad about someone else being better than you? What is bad? Is that something that you should really be thinking about on your mind constantly and doing this rather than just trying to maybe even just use that as fuel, be like, oh, they've surpassed me for now, let me try and pass them again, right? Am I making sense?
Yeah, yeah, that definitely makes sense.
um
Nothing really matters. It sounds like the
I
peak
know, but
peak of COVID lockdown.
yeah, that and you can't go too nihilist with it, of course. Otherwise, you'll be like, well, why am I even playing this game? Why do I even, and then you won't really want to improve at all. But just realizing that every single play you set, even if it seems like you're doing bad, I think you are improving in some way. Whether it be, so minimally that you just don't even realize it, I think every single play that you set, you are improving. It
Yeah,
could be, more obvious, like, oh, I got my personal best on the map, or you could be like, oh, well, I got higher accuracy. It didn't quite beat my thing. I didn't quite get huge combo on it, or even like, oh, I act this one section that I wasn't able to hit before. Even if I did worse in the rest, this one section I was actually able to play better than before. It's the stuff that you don't normally think about when you're playing. You're normally just looking at the end result, looking at the leaderboard and be like, oh, I finally have seen this. But it's good to step back and realize, even if you're doing bad, quote unquote, for most of a play, if you're hitting one thing better than you were before, that's still something that you're doing right. you know
do you have any sort of things that you've learned about improvement that you feel like should have been really obvious? I know you somewhat mentioned a couple.
oh,
That you,
yeah.
but any things that I guess anything else that you feel like should have been obvious but kind of took you an embarrassingly long time to figure out?
Ah, beyond just like actually try and play the things that you're bad at. Hmm,
Anything with like your game settings or like even
probably
just
that it just it all is preference. Every single thing in this game. This might be a hot take, but I think your input device is complete preference. It's if you feel like you are more used to aiming with a pen, and that's more comfortable for you to do, then do that. If you like a mouse, then stick with a mouse. Even to like skin, where you see people who are like, oh, well, to do this I need to use the optimized DT skin. I need to use the Raphis skin, or something like this. But all the best players, they just play with whatever. At least back in the day, like HVic is one of the best players of all time, and I'm sure you've seen his skin. That's
oh.
something else. People are like, how do you even read with that? But it's just he played with it. He was used to it. It was what was comfortable for him. Whatever is comfortable for you, whatever you get used to, just play like that. That's all you have to do.
I think doubling down on that point you made about like actually kind of just bringing yourself to be able to practice the skill sets that you know you're bad at. I think that's probably the biggest takeaway that I'm hearing here.
Mhm.
Someone asked in the forum, who is your favorite OSU player, excluding old players like Cookiesy and Wobblewolf? I'm
Oh,
thinking.
Cookies, he's an old player. He just set a score yesterday.
They said they're
um,
talking more about modern players like Whitecat or Emmerich era.
Modern players. Can I give like obscure
Oh,
answers?
of
I feel
course,
like
of course.
it's so easy to always be like, oh, MREC is pushing the limits of everything, but there's a lot of unsung
All
heroes
right. I mean, and
of
also this
OSU.
question is less about best and more of just who's your favorite OSU player.
Who's my favorite? I gotta see. Of course, it's hard to play favorites. It's hard to pick favorites. Um, hmm. This is something I might have to ponder. This
Okay.
is something I might have to think about for a bit. because I don't want to give the obvious answers.
I mean, I think with all your extensive wisdom of exploring the game, probably more than any other person potentially, as far as history and digging deep into different players, I think you of all people, or if nothing else, who's a player that you feel like is just you're just completely flabbergasted by, just completely like amazed that this player even exists, sort of thing.
I mean, pretty much anyone at the top right now. They're pushing limits, harder than ever before. But there's always I really like people, going back to playstyles. I love Proxy Codon Bonk because that is a playstyle that almost no one uses, but it's still one that he's able to use effectively. That's something that I really really like, and I'm surprised nobody else has tried to use the bonk playstyle.
Could you describe it a little bit in case people don't know?
It's so it's using a touchscreen laptop, but instead of normally when you think of someone using a touchscreen, they tap and their cursor teleports around the place. But he's constantly holding his finger down, so his cursor is it's kind of like using a tablet, but pointing as the pen, but instead of a tablet, it's a touchscreen. Am I explaining that well enough?
Yeah, that makes
And then
sense.
he just taps on the keyboard, which is amazing, and it has its own drawbacks as well because your hand will be in the way, obscuring some of what you're looking at every time that you're playing. But it's just a very unique take on playing the game, and something that just sort of developed naturally that is very very interesting. And some people are like, oh, it's too OP, it's crazy, but we haven't really seen anyone else be able to master that playstyle as well as Bonk.
I remember Ari made a tweet somewhat recently about Wario and the sort of three key playstyle
Oh yeah.
where it's sort of Ari mentioned in his tweet that like three key and even four key is kind of the future of kind of taking Osu gameplay to the next level. And he's kind of sad that like people like Wario were the only people who really like practiced and got to the top with that type of playstyle. And for context, because I think some people might say that like, oh, isn't it using more than two keys cheating? But in the Osu Laser client, which is basically the new update, like Osu 2.0, if you will, but in that client, you're able to bind up to four keys because in Osu, you have two keyboard buttons and two mouse buttons, but in Osu Laser, you can just bind one of the mouse buttons to your keyboard for each mouse button. So yeah, up to four keys is actually possible and very officially supported and stable as well. Yeah, although, yeah, okay, so someone did mention that three key isn't supported and stable. Yeah, that's true because you can't register a keyboard and a mouse input at the same time. So you can't press input at the same time. So that makes it really tricky, unstable. But I think if anyone's interested in getting on that grind in Osu Laser, that's definitely something that I think has a lot of potential. So let's see. There's a couple more questions. There's some sort of troll questions. I think we can try to burn through those relatively quickly. So one is to Willie, do you like mustard on your beef?
Mustard on my beef. That's a great question.
Is
That's
there
a wonderful
context?
question. There is context. It would take quite a while to explain the deep lore of the Willy Osu Discord server.
Oh
But
dear.
the answer is yes.
Is there a TLDR?
The TLDR is four sleep deprived people in a voice channel on Discord riffing on YouTube videos. That's so we come up with our own like completely nonsense jokes that are funny at like 4 a.m. and then we wake up the next day and we're like, what? Why did we even think this was funny?
Oh my god. All
It's a
right.
great time over there. I love my Discord.
Someone said, "How's your dial-up connection?"
Oh, it's great. It's wonderful. This is actually maybe a double meaning question because okay, again, with the Discord server. I have a voice channel in my Discord where I turn the bitrate all the way down. I just called it dial-up connection, because of course. And it's very fun. But I don't know if you know this. For a really long time, I had bad internet, very
Oh
bad
no.
internet. This is a great thing when it comes to streaming. This is a oh man. Um, my upload speed used to be 500 kilobit per second,
Oh no.
and this is in like 2013, 2014, all the way up until I think I got new internet in 2019.
Oh my god.
So you'll see like stream VODs from me from back in those days. And I still tried streaming on Twitch, and I think, part of the reason why people didn't watch me is I had the stream in 320p. My internet was so bad, 360p was too high res,
Oh
and I would
no.
start dropping frames. So um yeah, and that impacted YouTube a bit. If you know, I used to run a channel called Cookie Z Replays, where right before Cookie Z was or right after he was banned, somebody posted a bunch of his replays on Reddit, and I was like, oh, well, I want this easily accessible, like an archive on YouTube where anybody can watch any of these old plays. And
Oh.
I would come home from school and I would record the plays, render them, and then upload them. And uploading would take, for probably a 3 or 4 minute play, like an hour and a half, maybe two
Oh
hours.
no.
So I would just sit back and I would like do schoolwork and homework while that was uploading, because I couldn't use my internet. I was using my full bandwidth to upload the play.
Oh no. Wait, that's crazy.
Yeah, so that's what it used to be like.
I remember
Oh
that
man,
map pack actually. I downloaded it when I came across it somehow when I was relatively new, and I got a lot of maps that way because like I basically downloaded
that's
all of them,
smart.
and I think I still have all those local scores in my game.
I still have all. I still do. Hey, and if you want to watch them on YouTube, Cookies
Yo.
replays.
One
Oh
last
man,
thing about gameplay, I actually want to ask about nerve control. Is that something you have any experience with?
a bit. I think I'm better at controlling my nerves than before. But anybody who has watched me, I am very shaky for one reason or another, and people will think that I'm very bad. But trust me, it's better than it used to be.
Are there any lessons you've learned or ways that you've improved your nerve control?
uh Try not to think about the end result. People are really caught up in the end result of a score. I mean, I am too, when I'm like, oh, if I FC this map, I'm gonna get so much PP, or oh, I'm gonna get a leaderboard position, or oh, this is a score I've wanted for a while, and I start, thinking that in the middle of the play. I'm like, oh, what if I don't do it? What if I'll
Oh
get really
no.
nervous. But if you just clear your mind, just hit the notes, don't care about it. You know, maybe it'll crop up in your brain, but hopefully you can mitigate it. That's what I try and do.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen my most recent top play, but it has quite a beautiful
Shake.
yeah, moment at the end. Here, let me send the image
Okay.
of my misanalyzer on the last note of the map.
No.
You can see right there. My cursor is kind of all over the place.
Let's see if I can get this on the stream for those
Yeah, yeah. Show the
watching.
world.
Oh dear.
No, but there's a lot of people who comment on my shake and when I'm nervous, but I try my best to stay composed and keep it going, even when I'm thinking about oh no, what if I miss? Oh, I'm so nervous. I'll try my best. Probably a great example of my shake is my Amoid Kakera FC, where the end streams I am all over the place, because I knew in the moment, I was like, this is my best play I've ever done. I hope I don't choke this.
Ah,
I
I
don't
see.
I don't really have an efficient way to control my nerves, but I still try nonetheless.
Yeah, I think that sort of like feeling like, oh, I don't know. If I had to give my 2 cents on that specifically, it's like if you're on a run that you feel like is really good for you, instead of feeling like missing would ruin it, I think just like kind of being proud of yourself or like being
Mhm.
satisfied with the performance that you've done already, And it's like as soon as that thought comes to mind that it's like, wait, this is my best score ever,
Yeah.
it's like, dang, I'm already satisfied with that. Let's just play the rest of the map. However it goes doesn't really matter because I've already gotten that satisfaction that I've gotten this awesome run up to this point.
I also have like this really bad mental thing where until I FC a map in my brain, it's like impossible. I'm like, oh my god, this map is so hard. I don't know if I can do it. But the instant I FC a map, I could FC it again.
Ah,
Like
interesting.
it's like a roadblock for me. I just like unlock it because once I've done it, I'm like, oh, I know I can do it. It's easy. Does that make
No, that makes
That's-
perfect sense. That makes perfect sense. I think
So
that's one of
I
those like mental barriers, I guess. I think confidence plays a big role in that. But yeah,
yeah, I'm not quite sure how to overcome that, but that's something I deal with a lot.
yeah, I think well, one thing that's helped me is kind of really just looking at the leaderboard. Honestly, not in a way to demotivate yourself, but it's like if all of these players have gotten the score, it really must not be that hard, right?
Mm.
So, and even let's say hypothetically you're playing a map and there's no FCs yet. Okay, honestly, what I do is I was like, man, why is nobody playing this map? I bet like there's literally 100 people that could FC this, but just no one has done it yet. And so it's like,
Oh yeah.
it's this map is even easier than the leaderboard is making it out to be, just because no one has actually played this map. So that's also one of those things that I try to like let's say you're going for the first hidden hard rock FC on a map or something. It's like, well, no one has done it yet, but it's not. That doesn't mean that it's super hard. It might just be that no one has gotten around to doing it or no one has bothered.
It's kind of true too, because I feel like you do see examples as soon as somebody gets that first, hidden hard rock FC on a map. Suddenly, there's two other people who pop up out of nowhere. Oh, I can do
Oh,
that too, because
yes,
maybe they just forgot
yeah.
about the map, or like, oh wow, I can finally do that. So that's probably a good way to think about it. Is oh well, there's probably other people who would have this, but they might just not even remember the map at all.
I think that especially happens on like obscure older maps where it's like one
Hmm.
person gets a cool score and then all the other top players like remember that that map exists. And
Hmm.
so then they
Very
all go and
recently
get a
on
score.
Night of Commands, that was a pretty recent one.
Oh,
If you
really?
know that map.
I actually don't. I think
Yeah, I
maps
forget.
like,
Someone did really good on it, and then intercamping was it got a really good score, and then somebody else got a really good score, and it was a map that had like basically no DTFCs, and then suddenly overnight it had like four.
was it I Want You that uh like a bunch of players got DT scores kind of at the same time?
Ah,
Yeah, I think it
maybe.
was. It was like I think Bonk FC'd it, and then Airyu and Badu FC'd it as well.
Hmm.
But yeah, good times. All right. Do you have any sort of final opinions or bits of wisdom or things you'd like to share with the world as we wrap up?
It's just a game, so please enjoy it. That's it.
Well said. Thank you.
Wonderful words.
Yes, wonderful words indeed. I think let's give a quick pause to let those words really sink in. But thank you, Willie, again for joining us. Are there any places where people can find you other than your OSU profile?
YouTube, Twitch, just look up Willy Osu. I'm sure you'll find me.
All right, and those will be linked in the description for those listening on YouTube. But thanks again, everyone, for tuning in and listening to. I already said tuning in. But yeah, thank you again, Willie, for joining as well. And we will see you all very, very soon for another interview with Caryu. So yes, stick around, and we will see you all next time.